The Pentagon is telling the United States military to prepare for a secret multi-week attack on the country of Iran and their best assets and allies. Donald Trump is nominated for the Nobel Prize. Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook apologizes publicly for his social media site leading to the death of thousands of people, including teens and children. Plus, gambling sites online are predicting that Michelle Obama is about to run for president of the United States. Thank you so much for liking and sharing these videos. It helps me out more than you can imagine because it tells YouTube to share it with other people. So thank you so much for that. Today's broadcast will be heavy as there's big news coming out of the Pentagon and out of the White House. According to Punchbowl News, Democrat Representative Cori Bush is now under federal investigation by the Department of Justice regarding alleged misuse of federal security money. However, the problem doesn't seem to be how she's spending the money, but who she's spending the money with, as Cori Bush hired her husband to be her security detail. In her own defense, Cori Bush claimed she paid her husband a fair market rate and stated, "Since before I was sworn into office, I have endured relentless threats to my physical safety and life. As a rank and file member of Congress, I'm not entitled to personal protection by the House and instead have used campaign funds as permissible to retain security services." Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Cori Bush, more than any other single Democrat on the Hill, has called to defund the police across the entire United States. She stated, "Police are terrible, and all they do are ruin lives." She said the Black community doesn't want police, which is a lie based on data from Black communities and, in fact, all communities. The only people that don't want police are criminals. Meanwhile, she used campaign money from donors to hire her own security guard. But instead of hiring a third-party service, she has, in fact, hired her own husband. Now, I don't wish harm on this woman, but the rules for thee and not for me hypocrisy she's displayed is absolutely delicious. It's always the people that want to defund the police that later either have the same guns or the protective detail that the rest of us simply can't afford to have around us. Now, being a political figure does not come without some type of risk. In fact, presidential candidate Nikki Haley was swatted not long ago. This is the practice of making a false police report that somebody is being killed or injured in a way that forces the police to break through into somebody's home. And sometimes it has resulted in a fatal outcome. It's truly an evil practice to swat somebody, but it's becoming more and more popular among Democrats and Republicans. So it's not a one-sided issue only. Now, President Joe Biden is finally traveling to East Palestine, Ohio, nearly 1 year after a train was derailed and released toxic chemicals into the community. Suddenly, the president, who's been too busy to visit, found time ahead of the 2024 election to go to Ohio and tell people how sorry he is for the troubles that they've had to live through. Well, former President Donald Trump took notice of this and bashed Joe Biden by stating, "I know those great people. I was there when it counted, and his reception won't be a warm one." Now, if I was Biden, I'd be very embarrassed to show up there. People were literally begging for him to come, to take action, and he didn't show up. But Donald Trump did show up and was there making sure that people were okay, handing out bottles of water, emergency blankets, things like that. So Sleepy Joe was asleep at the wheel, but he's going to try to make up for it because he needs Ohio in order to win the election. On top of this, President Donald Trump was just nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize for his work on establishing peace between Israel and the Middle East by ushering in the Abraham Accords Treaty. Republican Representative Claudia appeared on Fox News to champion the achievement, stating Donald Trump was instrumental in facilitating the first new peace agreements in the Middle East in almost 30 years. Now, it's sad what's going on in the Middle East right now because all of his hard work could suddenly be erased as we head towards war. Now, I find it funny how they made Trump out to be this war-hungry, dangerous madman, when in reality, he did more to achieve peace than any president in almost 50 years. While Donald Trump is being nominated for peace prizes and being loved by the people of Ohio, President Biden is spending his time replying to Elmo from Sesame Street on Twitter at 2 in the morning. Now, this is not a joke. On a serious note, I do have to respect the content of Biden's message, even though I highly doubt he wrote it. He stated, I know how hard it is some days to sweep the clouds away and get to sunnier days. Our friend Elmo is right. We have to be there for each other, offer our help to our neighbor in need, and above all else, ask for help when we need it. Now, again, even though it's highly unlikely Biden wrote this at 2 a.m. or at all, it is a good message and a good reminder to love each other and serve each other. And this is something I do believe in. Now, I know he doesn't really mean this when it comes to Republicans, as he says that they are the worst threat to the United States of America, but maybe he forgot it. It was at 2 a.m. after all. Now, speaking of social media, Republican Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri has slammed Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg at a hearing for online child safety. When Zuckerberg was asked if he has apologized to the families of these victims who have suffered as a result of his product, Zuckerberg turned around to face the people and stated, I'm sorry for everything you've gone through. It's terrible. No one should have to go through the things your families have suffered. So he decided to apologize right then and there. I'm sure his lawyers did not like him doing that. Sadly, Facebook, TikTok, and other social media outlets have been used to traffic, exploit children, have caused mental illness and depression, as well as giving women eating disorders all over the world. Facebook knew that this was happening, yet pushed ads and content in order to hit quarterly revenue goals. And for this reason, he was summoned to testify on Capitol Hill today. The Federal Reserve will likely not cut interest rates in March. According to a new statement released by the Fed today, the statement read, the committee does not expect it will be appropriate to reduce the target range until it has gained greater confidence that inflation is moving sustainably towards 2%. To me, this is just another indicator that inflation isn't completely defeated yet. While I do believe the Fed will drop rates as we get closer to the presidential election, I don't think it will be as soon as the Fed previously hinted at, and the stock market reacted negatively. In fact, the NASDAQ dropped 2% and the Dow Jones over 300 points just today. House Speaker Mike Johnson has responded to President Biden's comments last week where he admitted there was a crisis at the border and that no, the border is not secured. Mike Johnson stated, finally, it took 3 years for President Biden to admit there is a crisis at the southern border. It's not just a crisis, it's a catastrophe. Still, the president claims he has no executive authority to fix the disaster he has created. The speaker continued, this is a demonstrably untrue statement. He can and should act immediately. Now, unfortunately for Biden, Johnson threw a wrench in his plans by stating he would not support any border deal that even allows one illegal crossing into the country. So Biden has been saying that even with executive power, he has no ability to do anything on the border and that the people are just going to continue to come in. But that is a lie. That is absolutely a lie. Why have other presidents been able to do something at the border, but suddenly Joe Biden is not able to? Pretty mysterious, right? Now, I see you guys making comments over on the side. I want to say hello to you tonight. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just going to continue with this, but thank you so much for being here and for liking these live broadcasts. All right, now, according to several online gambling websites, Michelle Obama is the name people are betting on most to replace Joseph Robinette Biden. I don't personally see this happening unless Barack Obama is somehow trying to covertly get an extra term or two in the White House. Now, let me know in the comments, if Michelle runs, is it really just Barack Obama trying to run the country from the White House basement? Or do you think she really wants to be the first female president of the United States? Let me know. I look forward to hearing from you. All right, now, in some international news, Iran has responded to President Biden's threat of retaliation for the killed servicemen and women and those that were injured by threatening even more retaliation against the United States. In essence, Iran stated that if Biden attacks their assets or their soil, then there will be a counterattack. Now, there has been some talk that Iran linked terrorists would stop targeting American ships in the Red Sea, but these reports have been ignored by the US government, thus, especially since attacks are still ongoing. Now, as far as it goes for Biden, he is still expected to issue a large response, as it would seem weak for him to allow our enemies to kill American military men and women. And here's what we know so far about the Iran-backed attacks that killed U.S. military men and women. The United States Pentagon has announced that they are developing a multi-week surprise attack on Iran assets and critical sites. The attacks will be coordinated. Now, I'm not sure what that means. That could mean that they will be communicating between the Navy, Air Force, Army, and Marines on their attack. It could also mean involving the United Kingdom's military forces. Now, again, the White House and President Biden himself have announced that there will be a surprise multi-week attack on the country of Iran, their assets, and critical infrastructure. I don't have any more details than that, but I have no doubt that the elites in the Washington, D.C. swamp are drooling over the prospect of a major war with Iran. People like Lindsey Graham and John Cornyn have publicly said that they want to bomb the hell out of Iran. Today, Dan Crenshaw came out saying that he is also in favor of bombing Iran. Now, think of all the money laundering they can do in Washington, D.C. Think of all the taxpayer money that they can use to give to weapons manufacturers and the military-industrial complex. Think of all the campaign donations members of Congress will receive if we end up in war. I'll continue to keep you updated, but it's obvious that the globalists and the war hawks in Washington, D.C. are dragging the United States into another war in the Middle East. Now, earlier today, I got deep into the weeds on this topic with Colonel Douglas McGregor, one of the channel favorites among you guys. And he weighs in on the battle with Iran, the strength of the U.S. military, the Texas border crisis, and Biden, everything that Biden is doing to undermine Texas, the border, and even the U.S. military. Now, near the end of our interview, he said something about the United States and the military that almost had me on the verge of tears. I think that it was really wise insight that he was sharing. So please make sure to go over and look at that. But there's a lot going on. Again, if you're just joining us right now, President Biden, the White House, and the Pentagon have announced that there will be a secretive multi-week attack on the country of Iran, their assets, and their critical infrastructure for attacking the U.S. military on the border of Syria and Jordan that resulted in the death of military men and women and dozens of people being injured. I know that this is heavy stuff, but that is the broadcast for today. Now, before you go, I want to remind you that you are amazing. Never, never, never forget that. Thank you guys so much for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps me out. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being with me tonight. Let me say hello to some people before I go. Hi, Stephanie, Charles, Ligma, Tony, Debbie Ray, Elena, Derek, Holly, Donald, Ryan, Cecil. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I'm a big fan of yours. Thank you so much. Excellent program. How is it secretive if they announced it? Good point. My guess is when they're going to actually launch the attack, where the infrastructure they plan to attack, how they plan to attack, the coordination, all of that is likely going to be secret. But my guess is they are attempting to slow down the Houthis and Iran in attacking us further by announcing that something big is coming. But what it actually is, I have no idea. So I hope that answers your question.